listening to the Marketing Personalities Podcast, a podcast for growth-minded entrepreneurs that serves up valuable insight and interviews about aligning your marketing strategy with your personality type. Because here's the deal. You shouldn't have to feel fake and salesy in order to grow your business. And you no longer have to. Your marketing strategy can feel good to implement and it can work. You can attract the right clients and customers to your business and grow your profits, all while staying true to who you naturally are. So in the name of honest business growth, bring your unique talents, perspectives, and personality to the table. And join us on this week's podcast episode to discover marketing that feels good for you. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Hey, it's Brit Kolo, and I'm here today, just me going solo on the mic to answer some of the most common questions that I get from people, whether they're interviewing me on their podcast or you're showing up in my DMs and Instagram asking me questions about marketing personalities. I get a bunch of questions and they often are super similar. So I'm just popping on here this week to answer these questions that if you haven't asked me them, you probably have wondered. So here we are. I'm going to answer those questions for you. There are, about 5 or 6 that I have written down. And if there are any others that kind of pop into my head as I am here recording, I'll answer those too. Now, if you have any questions that pop up in your head as you're listening today, you can always come over and find me on Instagram. Send me a message and ask your question. If it's something that's super specific to you and I don't feel that it's going to apply to many people but you, and it's something that I can answer right there in the DMs, I'm going to answer that for you. If it's something that I think I can answer with a longer explanation here on the podcast or through a video, I will do that. But it doesn't hurt to ask. And the best place to go ahead and do that is come over, hang out with me on Instagram at Marketing Personalities and send me a message. I'll be there for you. I'm always there for you. Okay. So one of the questions that I keep getting asked is, do I easily type people? When I'm in a social situation or I'm watching someone online, am I trying to figure out what type they are as I'm experiencing them as a person? And my answer to that is kind of twofold. Do I easily type people? I can't help but, start to pick up on cues of what aspects of their personality type they might prefer. So I can't help but recognize cues that might indicate that someone prefers to be more introverted than extroverted, or if they prefer to be more of a judger than a perceiver. Those things, now that I'm so versed in how those aspects come out of our personalities and how they show on the surface level, I'm so versed in those that it's hard not to recognize those in other people. However, I say that with a big, huge however. I refuse to type someone and assume their marketing, not just their marketing, but their Myers-Briggs personality type. I refuse to assume their personality type before they've told me what it is. I will not do that. So am I picking up on some cues and kind of like assuming little bits and pieces of it? Sure, but I will never, ever, ever say in my mind or out loud that someone is a specific type without having them first tell me that that is true. Sometimes that's a little frustrating for me and for other people because sometimes I really want to be able to say that one person is a specific personality type because I really think that I've kind of nailed it, but I just on principle, I won't say it because I could be totally wrong. And honestly, some of the people that are closest to me in my life, I still really haven't figured out. Like I might have an idea of what they are, but I am not in their brains. I'm not in their souls. I'm not in their bodies. And so I can't properly know what their personality type is until they've told me. So there you go. That's question 1. Now, the second question I want to approach is, I get this all the time. what the heck is going on when my type changes? Or said in a different way, can my type change? Could it be one thing? And then over time, later on, I take the assessment again and it's something different. What's going on there? Okay, so this is also multifaceted. So stick with me here. I understand that there are definitely people, scientific researchers out there who believe that your personality type is pretty much figured out within you pretty early in life. I mean, before you're like 10, and it doesn't change over time. That may be true. I don't know how we exactly prove that. And let's be honest here, I am not a scientific researcher. I'm just a studier of this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be true, but here's what I do know to be true. We as humans, regardless of what we really truly are as a personality type, can very easily shapeshift and put on different masks to either protect ourselves or to keep us safe or to improve ourselves faster than if we were to stay who we are. So what I mean by that is it is very possible for any one of us, regardless of our age, our status, our lifestyle, our type of business, regardless of any of those factors, we could sit down and take a personality assessment and not really answer the questions honestly. A couple examples that really highlight how this is possible without us even realizing that we might have done this in the past. 2 examples. First of all, I remember that the very first time I took a personality assessment was when I was in high school. I remember I was actually taken back to this kind of moment in my history and in my mind a few weeks ago when I was being interviewed on someone else's podcast, and this memory just kind of boom, lightning bolted into the front of my brain. I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't thought about this in so long. I remember I was either in 10th or 11th grade in my high school. I was in the computer lab, and my small class, we were instructed to take a personality assessment. And it was the Myers-Briggs assessment. They gave us a little code. We went in, we logged in, and we answered these questions. And the idea was through our personality assessment, it was going to give us an idea of what we might be interested in going to college for and ultimately doing for the rest of our lives. I'm not going to go into the whole tangent that I could go on of whether that's a good way to figure out what to do with your career or not, but we won't go there. But I do remember that moment in time where I had to sit in that computer lab and answer these questions in this personality assessment. And I remember getting my results and feeling really validated in the direction I had already started to go down in my brain, in my soul, in my life, thinking about what I would do in college. I remember my results came out as an INFJ, which might surprise you because I definitely believe I'm an ENFJ now, but that's where this example really hits home for everyone. I came out as an INFJ, and that validated in me at the time that writing was something that I was good at and that I should do. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but now as I look back on that, that was really the response that I wanted to get out of the assessment. And so consciously or unconsciously, I answered those questions in a way that I thought I should to get the result that I wanted. And that is the main reason I think our types can be different over time. So that's one thing. And that's not just for kids in high school trying to figure out what to go to college for. This is for any of us. Another really great example is pretty common for people the first time or first couple of times they've taken a personality assessment usually has to do with getting their first job or a new job. And that company that they've just been hired by asks them to take a personality assessment. Now, it'd be really great to say that's a true assessment of our real personality, but I don't think that gives us a true look at who we actually are because the context is off. You've just been hired for a specific position and you've been indoctrinated into the culture of the company, whether it's something that you believe in or not, like deep down. And now you're asked to answer these questions in a truthful manner, but knowing all of this other stuff about this company and this position, it's very, very easy to sit down, take the assessment, and answer in a way that you imagine that company that just hired you will accept you as, right? So if you're hired as, say, a salesperson, whether you realize you're doing it or not, you might kind of answer those questions from a more salesperson type of view than what your honest perspective on life and who you are really is. So those are just two examples. And I think it would do you a really great service if you haven't taken the personality assessment, specifically the one at 16personalities.com. That's going to give you your Myers-Briggs personality type. And I just really like how that assessment is laid out. I do not own that. Full disclosure, that is not mine. That's just the one that I send people to because I just think it's really great. If you have not taken that assessment in a while, or you have kind of an inkling with that when the last time you took it, you weren't totally in your true frame of mind, like you weren't answering from a solid foundation of you. You might have been a little skewed toward your employer or to your spouse or to your current life situation. I would take it again. And I would take it from a very grounded place in who you are. Sometimes that's not always a really easy place to get to. So I would not force it here. Like if it feels like you're forcing it and trying to get yourself into a grounded space just to take the assessment, I personally would back up and say, okay, now's not the right time. But whenever you feel like you're just especially having a really blissful day and you're in the best part of your day and you're feeling just very you, that might be the best time to take this assessment and be honest with yourself and the assessment and don't rush through it. Give yourself plenty of time to answer and try to get a really honest read on this. So that is my best advice now. And if you have seen your type change over time, consider how you answered your questions and what the context was the first time you took it as compared to the second, and then maybe the most recent, however many times you've taken it, and give yourself grace around the times that maybe you weren't totally honest with who you really are and you were kind of just adapting to the situation and the context. I definitely recognize that I was in 10th or 11th grade when I took my first personality assessment, and I was truly trying to get the answer that gave me the support I needed to declare a major in journalism. And so that's what I got, right? So that was that wasn't really true, right? And then I think it wasn't necessarily untrue that I was kind of an INFJ, but I think as I've gotten more comfortable with who I actually am, that's when the preference for extroversion really trumped the preference for introversion. And I have kind of gone back and forth between INFJ and ENFJ over time. I now believe I'm a pretty solid ENFJ, but that also brings up the fact that a great percentage of us are right there in the middle between introverted and extroverted. And I get this question a lot too. It's like, I'm introverted because I definitely need to recharge after I've been around a lot of people. But I enjoy being around people. It doesn't always drain me. Being around people I don't like drains me, but that's going to do that to anybody. I get that question all the time. And I think that common question reflects the fact that the majority of our population, as we know it, they're somewhere right in the middle. And that middle space between introversion and extroversion has been termed ambiversion, or being an ambivert. So you are able to switch between introversion and extroversion at any given time. And it's not always clear which one you prefer. It's a little bit more contextual than the others. And I think that that's true for me as well. I think there have definitely been phases in my life where introversion felt absolutely like the preference. But I think that that was more related to a distrust in self and a low self-esteem. And now that I've come into my true self and I'm believing in that more and I'm grounded in that more, I don't prefer introversion. Do I have to recharge sometimes after being with a lot of people, especially if I'm on the road traveling and I'm used to being in my home office all by myself and my dog and my cat and maybe seeing one other human during the week, not just during the day, but like during the week, one other human in the world. And then I go and I travel somewhere and I'm at an event and I'm around hundreds of people for 3 days straight. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can dig it for a while. And then there's still going to be a point where I want to come back and just be by myself and decompress that way. But overall, the preference is toward extroversion. So if you've been wondering about that, there's a perspective that might kind of ease that wonder and maybe worry that you've done this wrong for somehow. I mean, you can't really do this wrong unless you're answering the questions completely dishonestly, but that might ease some of that wonder. Maybe you're sitting there and you know that you have a primary personality type, but you also have this really close secondary personality type. Like I consider INFJ a very secondary, pretty close secondary personality type to my dominant ENFJ. And you might be wondering, well, what the heck do I do with that? I mean, it's a close second. Do I just completely ignore that and just go full force into my primary dominant personality type? Or is there a blend that can somehow work in here? And I definitely recommend to anyone to blend it. Blend those two things. If you feel like you really do have a close to even split between two personality types, there's no rule saying that you need to just look at your most primary. You can totally blend in suggestions from your secondary and see how that feels for you to work some of that stuff into your marketing strategy. The biggest thing that I want you to avoid is kind of muddying the waters where they are clear right now. So if it really helps you to focus in on that primary personality type, whatever that main one is for you, and if that's helping you stay clear and focused and on mission, then I would stick with that. If you have that inkling that things could feel better, not do more, but feel better if you started to blend in that close second personality type, then play around with it. Just beware, the more factors you put into this, the crazier and muddier it can become. And I don't want to do that to you. I don't want you to do that to yourself, right? So be careful with that one. Okay, next question I've gotten in the last couple of weeks is why Myers-Briggs? Why did you go with Myers-Briggs to build your marketing personality type framework off of? And it's pretty simple. So Myers-Briggs does remain as one of the gold standards of personality assessment typing. It also has a long history of being fairly accurate. Now, when I say fairly accurate, let's be real here. We're talking about human personality types. There are so many factors that go into who we are as humans on this earth, not just physically, but now we're talking about our psychology and our mind and our soul and how they interact with other humans. There are endless factors. So the science of personality types is not a perfect one. I truly believe it never will be perfect because none of us are perfect as humans and we're all very different. I mean, yeah, sure, there are 16 personality types, but there aren't 16 types of humans on the earth. That would make things a lot simpler, but that's just not how things work. So I think Myers-Briggs, it has a lot of history, a lot of science behind it, a lot of supporters behind it, and a lot of things that we can pull from to inform where we are right now in our lives. And it's not perfect. So I went with Myers-Briggs because of the history and also the fact that, I've never met a person to take the Myers-Briggs personality assessment and not get it. Like, there's always some sort of resonance. It might not be perfect the first time, but there's a deep resonance that happens when they've come to the table with their honesty. And most people in their life have at least heard of the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. If not, they've taken it at least once, if not several times throughout their lives. Not all personality assessments are like that. Now, I'm a total personality assessment junkie, and so I definitely have dreams of incorporating other personality assessments into the marketing personality type framework to make it even more robust and intricate and awesome. But, we're right here. We're here. Marketing personality types at the time of this recording has not even been existing in the world for more than 7 months. Like, it's still very much a baby. And so we're doing what we can with Myers-Briggs, and I think it's a lot. I mean, I've seen the impact of it in so many people, and it just blows my mind every single time somebody reaches out and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And as the entrepreneur, visionary, believer in all things better and more amazing, yeah, of course, I'm thinking about other personality assessments and how they might factor in here too. So we've got plenty of time to deal with all that. But for right now, Myers-Briggs is definitely one of the gold standards I really believe in, and that's where we've started. Okay, so next question. I've heard, and I think this somehow resurges at the beginning of every year. And right now I'm recording this in February 2019. So we're still at the beginning of the year here. And every year people try to write blog posts and record podcasts and videos and stuff about how they expect marketing trends to work out throughout this next year, the year that we're in. So, marketing trends of 2019, this, that, and the other thing. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little jaded with these things because I've been in this space for a while and it's just always the same stinking thing. But some of it is super clickbaity and I just roll my eyes at it. And some of it's like, okay, I can see that. I get where you're going with that. But I think because we're here at the beginning of the year, that's why this is coming up, this question. And it's that, do I have to do video since video seems to be really on trend right now? Here's the deal. Anytime you ask a question of, do I have to finish the sentence, like anything, my answer is always going to be no, you don't have to. Seriously. No, you don't have to do anything. I mean, let's be honest. Like, if you are listening to this podcast, you probably own your own business. And if you don't own your own business, you operate in some sort of marketing capacity for another person who owns their business. And you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to own this business. None of this stuff is have to. And I think the moment that it becomes a have to is a moment where we've gotten out of alignment here. So if you're wondering, oh man, like I've seen these 2019 marketing trend posts and they keep saying like video is king, video is king, video is king. If you're not doing video, you're going to be obsolete. And look at what Netflix is doing and YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, you're totally sucking at life. I don't know if they say that, but you get the idea. And I call BS on the whole thing. If video feels good for you to be on and produce, go ahead and produce a video. Be on a video. And if producing a video feels good, but being on video doesn't feel awesome, well, there are ways around that too. There are plenty of ways you can do video without actually you yourself being on video. So remember, it's not totally like option A or option B. There's something there in the middle that you can play around with if that sounds fun to you, if that feels good for you to navigate. And if video does not feel good for you, then no, you don't have to do it. I promise. Here's the deal. If you are showing up on video because you think you should, that should energy is not going to be good energy. That's not feel good energy. And when you bring anything less than feel good energy, your audience is going to pick up on that kind of like awkward, fake energy and they're not going to trust it. So unless you can approach video from a feel good perspective and approach, then don't do it. Please don't do it. You don't need it. We need, and your business needs you to show up as you. Period. End of story. So If you've been in kind of that, well, this is trending, that's trending, that little vicious cycle thing that our minds really love to latch onto, because when we see something that is trending and it's something that we don't currently do, the mind, oh my gosh, the mind is like, yes, this is like hog heaven for the mind. It's thinking, oh my gosh, this is a huge problem and I get to solve it. Because remember, the mind is there to solve problems. That's the only reason we have a mind. Okay. So when you're faced with a problem, the heart, the soul, the inner voice, the intuition, whatever you're terming that might not be super cool, but the mind's like, oh, that's what we need to focus on. Yeah. Because if the mind doesn't have a problem to solve, it gets really super bored and then creates its own problems to solve. Okay. Vicious little thing. It's there for good reason. It's to keep us safe and to solve the problems that we are actually having in our lives. But if we don't really have any actual problems, it creates them. And I think that the yearly trends or whatever Kool-Aid we're sipping from Instagram or Google News or whatever, our minds really love to latch onto that kind of stuff because it's an automatic problem that it has to solve. So I really encourage you to quiet the mind down and remember that whoever you are, truly, naturally, in your feel-good state, that's what your business needs to grow. Period. End of story. The mind can quiet down and let your true person move forward and build a marketing strategy that's going to feel good to implement. Because if it feels good to you, it's going to feel good to your tribe, your audience. They'll be attracted to that. Does that take trust and a bit of faith to go that route? Oh, yeah, definitely. You're going to need to take that step and say, okay, I'm going to step out in faith and believe what Brit's telling me, that what I bring to the table naturally and what feels good to me is enough. Yeah, you're definitely going to have to take a step of faith there. And then see what happens. That's what I want you to do. If you haven't done it yet, that's what I need you to do real soon. Because we need to let go of the fake and salesy and the things that the mind is getting attached to so quickly and go for what feels good so our audience can feel good too. So do I have to do a video? No, you don't have to do video. Next one, and I actually think this is going to be our last question that I answer. Again, if you have any questions that come up from this episode or just from your marketing personalities experience so far, and you really just want me to answer it for you, I want you to come over on Instagram, find me at Marketing Personalities and ask there. Throw it in a DM, throw it in a comment, whatever. If I can answer it right then, I will. If I can't, I will save it for the next Q&A episode. Okay. So the final question is similar to the last one, but a little different. Do I have to do Instagram? And sub question that doesn't always come out of someone's mouth, but is always right there under the surface is, do I have to do Instagram stories? I've talked about this on several occasions with several different people over the last few weeks. So if you've caught bits and pieces of this so far, I'm really going to bring it home with this one. There is something about Instagram that our minds really love to latch onto. It feels like this big, huge problem that the mind needs to solve, very much like video, for sure, for some people. Now, other people love video, so not everybody hates it. But I'm just saying, some people do, and then they get into this negative cycle of like, do I have to do video? Do I have to do Instagram? We need to strip away some of this anxiety and angst toward Instagram and really see it for what it truly is. Chris Emmer and I got into this a little bit on last week's episode, but I'm going to dig into it again so it really hits home for you. Instagram is a platform that gives you an opportunity to share with your audience and create a back and forth with them. I believe that within the back and forth, the give and take, the conversations and the actual engagement on the platform, I think that's where the gold is. That's where businesses are growing by using Instagram. I don't believe it's just within the platform where you're just like showing up and saying your piece and then not actually talking to anyone. I don't think that that's really working for people. It's very much, unless you're having conversations with other humans on Instagram, Instagram probably feels like a total waste of time because it is. Without those conversations and that true engagement, I don't think it's worth your time at all. Now, aside from that, Instagram seems to be what a lot of the people in my audience, I'm not saying everybody, but what I hear it from so many people, that Instagram is the thing that audience members' minds attach to when they're having any kind of problem in their business. Like I've watched this weird negative spiral happen so many times, and I have to just speak it out loud for all of you to realize that if this isn't happening to you, it's happening to someone in your close network of business friends right now. So I see it all the time where you have some sort of issue in your business, like a client doesn't come through, they don't pay their invoice, and so then you're not making what you thought you would this month, or someone sends you like this really crappy email and they're just really critical of you, and you just get into this sucky place. Shame spiral, guilt spiral, whatever that place is for you. And somehow in that negative spiral, so many people land on Instagram and they're like, well, I still haven't figured out Instagram, and Instagram stories just freak me out. And like, what do I do with Instagram? And that's where they go. I know it sounds silly, but I also know that a lot of you are listening to this right now and you're like, oh shoot, I've totally done that. You've totally done that before. I know you have. We all have. And then to make matters worse, sometimes it also ends with, well, if I could just figure out Instagram stories, like everybody I see on Instagram stories is just killing it. And I can't even figure out how to do an Instagram story without mumbling and stumbling over my words and not looking like a total weirdo. Oh, the things that the mind does when it's feeling threatened, right? Oh, man. So here's the truth that I need to speak into this situation about Instagram. Instagram offers you a really great opportunity. Do you have to take it up on its opportunity? No. Again, with any question that starts with, do I have to? The answer is always no. At least if you're asking me, my answer is always going to be no. Always. I swear, test me. Send me a question of, do I have to? And see if I ever say yes. I mean, do you have to pay your taxes? No, see? No, you don't. If we want to get really serious here. No, so no, you don't have to do Instagram. And let's really think about what we're talking about here, especially when we're talking about Instagram stories. Take yourself out of the Instagram app, set your phone down on your office desk, get up out of your chair, walk away from it for a second, and just think about what an Instagram story actually is. It's a 15-second clip that lasts no longer than 24 hours. It is literally one of the smallest pieces of marketing material you could possibly create. And it's somehow what our minds just love to fixate on. Am I right? It's so true. Now, for some of you, you might be listening and you might be like, wait, I love Instagram stories. Yeah, me too. I love Instagram stories too. Not always. Sometimes I have a crappy day and I'm like, I don't want to be on Instagram stories because I just don't want to be there, But most of the time, yeah, I really love Instagram stories. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, I totally dig Instagram stories. I'm good. Well, even if you're in that place, try to think back of when you first started using Instagram stories and see if any of this rings true. Did it take some practice to get into Instagram stories and like feel okay about it? I know for me, it absolutely did. It took a little practice to just kind of know how to show up there and how to be of value. But from the very beginning, I didn't think that it was evil. I didn't think, oh my gosh, like I really have to figure this out. It was more just, I took a playful stance with it. And so I think the word playful, if you can come at anything with a playful spirit, even if it doesn't make total sense to you yet, you're on a really good path. Because if you're bringing a playful energy to something, that's a high vibration energy. And so your audience will be served by that, period. They'll be attracted to that, even if it's a little goofy and a little silly. As long as you're coming at it from a truly playful space, you're good. If you cannot find the energy within you to approach something with a playful attitude, just don't. Seriously, just walk away from it for a minute. Think back on what your marketing personality type is and therefore what your best marketing strategy includes, and start from there. And especially if you're in a negative spiral right now, like something happened in the last 48 hours, or even you've just been in a rut ever since the beginning of the year, whatever. If you're in that kind of negative spiral right now, it's not going to help to allow your mind to continue spiraling on all these problems that you so think you have, or your mind thinks you have. What I really encourage you to do is just like, okay, put the phone down, close the MacBook screen, walk away from it for a second and think about what your marketing personality type is, what that means for your best marketing strategy. What does your best marketing strategy include? And how can you develop a super simple action plan that only includes that? Forget about all the other options. That's what this is all about, right? Forget about all the other options. And even if you've been in business for a while and you have like a Twitter account and an Instagram account and a Facebook and YouTube, and somewhere there's still a Periscope link somewhere, and you have a million blog posts and this, that, and the other thing. Okay, that's fine. You can walk away from all of that too. Walk away and focus in on what you are actually meant to be doing here and actually skilled at feeling good about, and do that. It's okay to walk away from all the other stuff and just do that one focused thing for a period of time. I really encourage, and I gave this advice in the last 24 hours. I gave this advice to someone. She has a Facebook group. She has a YouTube channel. She's been showing up on Instagram quite regularly, but it doesn't feel good to her. She has a pretty solid email list, and she really, really feels good on video. Like the Facebook group doesn't feel great. Instagram doesn't feel great. She doesn't know what to email her list. But once she gets on video, the words just flow, and it's just been feeling great. And so I asked her, well, what if you, for the next, I gave her 30 days, but actually I think she's going to do 60 days. What if you give yourself a shot for the next 30 days to just do that? Just focus on your YouTube channel. Just focus on getting on video, saying what you need to say, instructing what you need to instruct, and uploading it to YouTube. What if you just did that? And you could see it as I gave her that advice, just like the pressure just went down. And she finally could start feeling better about the whole situation. And so if you're in that really pressure-filled place, I get that part of you thinks that everything will go to hell if you let go of the plates that are currently spinning. I'm going to tell you what, if you have multiple plates spinning and you let 7 out of the 8 plates drop, and you catch that one most important, most prized plate, you will have lost 7 things that don't really matter to you, and you will have saved the thing that gives you life and the thing that does matter to you. I would rather you do that than continue to spin all 8 of those plates, have most of it feel like absolute crap, and risk dropping everything. That was an analogy that just literally came out of nowhere, just flowed right through me. I think it made sense too, which I'm really proud about. So there you go. There are my answers to your most common questions. And if you have anything that comes out of this episode that you want to get better clarity on, more clarity on, whether it's personal to you or just an overall thing that you've been wondering, please come hang out with me on Instagram at Marketing Personalities. And then I will be back next week with a super awesome interview. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening listening to this episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Now it's time to connect your marketing strategy to your personality type. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to download your marketing personality type full report. Use the code MPP at checkout to get $10 off. And that's a super special code for podcast listeners as a way to say thank you for being here. In your full report, you'll learn about your personality type, how it relates to the work you do, what your best marketing strategy includes so you can start implementing it right away, what your worst marketing strategy includes so you can avoid it, and so much more. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to get your full report and use the code MPP at checkout to receive $10 off your purchase. And one more thing before you skip on to the next podcast. Would you please share this episode with your entrepreneur friends who also need to feel good about their marketing strategies? Take a quick screenshot of your podcast app right now and share it out via text, Facebook, or my favorite, Instagram. Remember to tag me at Marketing Personalities in the photo so I can be sure to send you a huge high five and thank you for sharing the love. This podcast is edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, and you can find them at podcastengineers.com. That's all for now. Thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Love ya. Bye.